Hello. I hope it's recording. Yeah, it's recording. I have a couple things I like to say. First of all, hello. I've already said that. Second thing I like to say is my name is Joe. I own a Way to Go website. We make clear and simple websites. waytogowebsite.com if you want to check it out. Other thing I like to say, this is Chase, my friend Chase. He's a graphic designer.
Hello, everybody.
Chase has been doing dumbbell workouts this week, so he can't raise his arms over his head. So
That's all I got. That's all I got.
So if you see him try and fail to itch his nose, that's why. Um,
I don't have nerve issues. I just have muscle pain.
the next thing I'd like to say is we have a subscriber. We may or may not know who this subscriber is, but it's not me or Chase. So we have a third subscriber that's not me or Chase. So that's something to celebrate. We can give ourselves a pat on the back, right, Chase?
No, no, we can't.
No, yeah, we can't, but I'll do it. If I was there, I would do it for you. So that's for you.
Okay, I appreciate that.
The other thing I like to say is last time we recorded one of these, I did not explain what we were about to do. I just started talking, which dawned on me. You know, we're not so famous. We are famous, but we're not so famous that everybody knows what we're doing. So because we have 16 unique viewers, and I mean, I don't want to pat myself on the back again, but yeah, so I figure maybe we should explain. So basically, what Chase and I are doing with this series of website reviews is we're just finding websites randomly, either through just like Google searching, or we're seeing, in this case, I found this on a blog post. And then we're taking the website and then we're saying practical things that will change about it. And that could have to do with copy or design. The hope is that somebody watching on YouTube has their own website and they may be having some of these same problems or things that they want changed, but they're not quite sure how to do it or what exactly needs to change. So we're trying to give practical advice and hope that people find it useful. Last thing I'll say before we take a look at this is if you have a website that you would like us to look at, totally free, just leave it in a comment and then we'll get to it in one of our next episodes. So I'm calling out to all you 16 unique viewers and 3 subscribers, not counting Chase and me, so 1 subscriber, to leave a comment. I think it's good for the algorithm if we get comments. So
It is.
you have to please the algorithm.
Like
Okay.
and subscribe.
Like and subscribe, and don't just like and subscribe. Smash the like button and smash the subscribe button.
And ring the bell.
Ring it. Okay. All right. So with that, let's get into our website. So the nice thing, the refreshing thing about this website, it's got very good copy. It follows the story brand framework that Way to Go website uses, and we're big fans of. That's the book by Donald Miller, Building a Story Brand, if you want to check that out. So we'll be kind of highlighting some ways that they're doing great with copywriting. Also, there's still some little ways that they could probably improve it. Generally, they're doing well. But mostly this website is falling prey to WordPress. They've done everything well, but WordPress clearly is creating problems for them where just little inconsistencies and bad spacing and things like that I know from personal experience and Chase knows from personal experience is just what happens when you work on WordPress sites probably 90% of the time. So we'll be highlighting all of those issues, but we can get started with the header. So from a copy standpoint, I like what they're doing. They're kind of covering all the bases. The header is your most viewed part of your whole website. It's on the homepage. It's your most popular page. It's at the top of the page. Don't have to scroll to see it, so everybody sees it. Thing you want to talk about on the header is what you offer, how to make their life better, or what the ideal scenario or ideal outcome it is for your visitor, and then a call to action button. Basically, how do you get the offer? And they're doing all of that here. So make the most of most of the time you have as a family is saying this is kind of the ideal outcome. And then family coaching to help you experience a more productive, satisfying, and meaningful family is what you offer. Chase mentioned earlier that sometimes this is switched, where one of these is the subhead and one is the heading. Chase, would you say that the order here is good, or would you change the order on these?
I think Joe and I might disagree a little, but I think that you should always put what you offer kind of more as your big heading. Because now, because if you read family coaching to help you experience, you know, whatever your service is, that's more specific. So that immediately upon reading that headline, you know what this is. But if you just read make the most of the time that you have with your family, that's not, you're like, you have to read the next sentence. You're kind of left a little astray. You're just sort of reading a broad statement
Yeah.
that's not specific to the company.
Make
Maybe you even miss that second line and then you start scrolling down the site. You're like, what the heck is this? you know?
right.
Um,
No,
I think it's best.
I don't disagree with that, and I think it also depends a lot on the words. So like the heading that they use, the main big heading that they use, make the most of the time you have as a family. When you read the first half of that sentence, you think it's saying make the most of the time you have left. It's almost like you won't have much time left with your family, so better make it count.
Yeah,
Which
it's like a
isn't
funeral service.
right. It's like we do wills.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with that, and I think just say it plainly, like we've said before and other things, and like that blog post that we'll put it on in the description where it kind of goes through. I wrote a blog post kind of detailing the whole homepage of what should go on there. Clarity over cleverness. So while they're doing the right thing, it's just their first line is a little bit more ambiguous, not as direct, and you only have 15 seconds on your homepage to get people's attention before they leave. So just say it straight out: family coaching to help you experience a more productive, satisfying, meaningful family. There you go. And then they have the call to action button. Is good. So, but generally speaking, they're hitting everything they need to hit. Just little tweaks here and there. It's kind of subjective, but Jason and I are in agreement. Probably say what you offer first. That comes to design on this. Chase, what do you think? What do you think of the placement of the text?
Well, it going over people's faces isn't. It's not always a great look because you're trying to show, people are happy. They enjoy this service. They elicit a sense of joy. But if you're covering text over people's faces, for one thing, it's kind of distracting because you want to look at the people's face, but then you also want to read the text. So it's kind of annoying and conflicting to look at. The easiest fix that you could do for this section would just be making that there's sort of a blue opacity color, overlay being put over that image, is just making that darker. But an even better fix would be like moving the family or moving the faces outside of the frame of the text. So either moving the family down, if there's a greater height to that image, like put the text like in sort of the foreground, that blurry, or the background of those like blurry, forest and trees back there, so that it's not really blocking anything in the scene that's important, like the people that are hugging and whatnot. And just bring the family down. Or I was talking to Joe earlier, and he mentioned that you could cut out the family as a PNG, and sort of move that asset around that way. There's more things that you can do here other than just slamming the text right on top of people's faces.
Yeah.
It's not a very good look.
So the interesting thing about like marketing and websites and images and things like that, people respond to smiling, happy people. Like it's probably the most effective visual thing you can have on your website. Sometimes, especially for people that have been kind of in this field for a while and kind of been looking at this, sometimes it feels a little bit hokey or whatever, which I can understand anybody with that feeling. But this is a great photo. It has everything you need for it, and you're just covering up the most important part of it. So,
right.
The ideal outcome that you're promising or that you're offering is a happy family. And here's a picture of a happy family. You couldn't do better than that. So just move the text and so you can see them. Okay, I think that's all we wanted to say there. Next section is the value section. So this gets into one just key thing I'll say. So in the blog, and this is a discussion Chase and I have had in the past, in the blog, I put a specific order to each section. In the blog that I wrote, and in the book that the blog is based off of, you would put the problem section immediately after the header section. My opinion on this, not a huge deal. Put it in whatever order you feel works best. I've actually seen the person who wrote this book, I've seen them give examples of sites where they put the value section second and not the problem section. So I don't think it's a big deal. What they've done here is they put the value section and then immediately below that they put the problem. Put in whatever order you feel works best visually and that you're most comfortable with. But as long as you hit all the check boxes, you're good. So as far as the value here, not a whole lot I would say about this other than they could probably come up with. So the value section is where you say, here's the additional value you get. Like, yes, we offer family coaching, but what is that? How does that actually translate into benefiting your life? So that's what they're doing here. I would say that these descriptions are maybe a little generic, not terrible, but they're just a little bit generic. And then actually later down on the page, which I think we'll get to, they have values that are way more specific, and I think would be just better here than what these are. Would you agree, Chase?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just better to say stuff straight out. Uncover blind spots. Well, what does that mean? Like, understand your family better, understand your family members better, or build a plan to what? Just go ahead and just say it straight out. But it's not a huge deal. At least I wouldn't take down the whole site and be embarrassed just if that was there. It generally gets the job done, and people generally will know what you're talking about, but it could be more specific. What do you think of those little lines below?
It's a really common thing that's used everywhere in graphic design, and it can be used well. It's typically used to like separate content so that the layout is like it's sort of more convincing. But they don't really add anything in this section. It's just sort of a thin like 1 or 2 pixel line that goes beneath each of those, 3-word phrases. It's just not really necessary to be there. There's no body font that goes beneath it. It's not really separating anything. It's sort of I kind of think of them as more of like a separator of content.
I agree. Yeah.
It would just look cleaner if you just remove those lines. I don't think those lines need to be there at all.
Yep. Totally agree. And besides the point, or let's say that they kept them for whatever reason. The spacing is just all wrong on them. I mean, I don't. That sounds very definitive the way I said that. I guess I have strong emotions about these little lines, but the spacing on top of the above the text is larger than the spacing below. I would say that those lines are too far away from the text. It's just that's a common thing that we'll find on the rest of this website. The spacing's a little off. Again, that's a very common problem with WordPress because WordPress can be extremely finicky and have styles and CSS styles built into the template that you would then have to use custom code to correct. So there's probably a style where these value sections here are each headings in HTML, and each one has a default space added to the bottom of them. And if you don't know CSS, you can't fix it. So then you get the spacing gets thrown off like this. So, in a non-WordPress perfect world, which is the world we try and operate in with using Webflow, where we can actually control stuff like this, the spacing would be a little bit better, and you get rid of those lines. All right, problem section. So again, they're doing everything. They're hitting the right stuff, and they're saying the right stuff. The way that they say it and the way they present it and the amount that they're saying, is subjective, and we would probably change it a little bit. This is another example where maybe they could be a little bit more specific because, again, it sounds a little bit like, a will, wasting your valuable years. Or, it's like you're aging and you don't have time left. That's what it kind of sounds like. So I would probably change a little bit like that, something like that, to this is better. Do you wish you were closer to your family than you actually are? That's a better heading because that actually gets to the core of what you do, which is helping families. Not your valuable years, not necessarily is a big deal. I think people want to be close to their family no matter what. I don't think they say, oh, it's the valuable years. They would just probably like to always be close to their family no matter what year it is. And then what do you think about the number of bullet points here, Chase?
Well, the questions are good because they're appealing, to this target demographic of people who have not a strong connection with their family. But you probably don't need how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't need 7 bullet points. You could probably reduce it down to 3 or maybe even 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4
bullet
is a good number, and especially in websites, that's where you'll typically see a 3 or 4 something. Anything more than that, it's hard to remember, and it's a lot to read. So 3 and 4 is good.
Yeah, and if you reduce the number of bullet points that you have, this layout can then be improved. thereafter, because you can move those bullet points. There's sort of a weird empty space above that doesn't connect with the title section that's to the left. There's this awkward space, on that right side of all those bullet points that
above this.
yeah, above that. You could just remove all that space and just, if you have four bullet points, you'd have two very clear, distinct sections.
Yep. Yeah, it's just a little bit awkward and creates some space down here. You can still have this. I wish people could see my mouse. I really need to get that figured out. This image here to the left of what I've highlighted here. This image of this lady. That's a single line drawing here. You can still use that image. You just add space below this information. So you move these bullets up so it's equal with this heading, and then you can still have this drawing here. Just leave space for it, or put it as a PNG, like we were saying before with the family. That's an option you could do, is cut them out as a PNG and then just place them below the content in line rather than a background image. That's the same thing you could do here. Just have this line drawing as a PNG and you just place it below the content here and here. Center it below these two things. And be a way better use of space, especially if you can get this image and have it drawn so this drawing has the line that when it goes flat on each side of her, just have that line extend all the way across the screen, and it'll create a great divider between sections and be useful as well as looking nice.
There's another thing to note here, that they use sort of this template on other sections of the site, and one problem is that when you create, when you put a lot of text on the screen, you have to order the text in a way that makes sense. So typically when you have a title, that's like you're introducing someone to a topic or an idea. And then you have all this body font which explains that text, and maybe there's, a bold piece of bolded font that's like the most important summary, the most important idea of this. And so in this problem section, your eyes go from reading that title to then reading what's beneath it. It doesn't have to be that way. Get the tools and resources. But then your eyes haven't read the bullet points that are to the right, which it makes more sense if you read those bullet points and then you read, it doesn't have to be that way. Get the tools and resources, to make your family closer together. It doesn't. So you have to. This is just a template, a templated section that was created in WordPress, but it wasn't really thought out in a way that this is good for the person reading and trying to understand what this section is even trying to describe.
Yeah,
So
in the problem section, you want to show understanding of the problem that your visitor is facing. So in this case, an unhappy family life is, putting it plainly, it might not be unhappy, but just not as good as they want it to be. That's the problem. And then the solution is family coaching that this person, Kristen Parker, offers. So you want to show the problem first and then the solution. So in this, way your eyes would go in this section, like Chase is saying, is you would go from, do you worry about this? And then you would go straight to the solution, and then you would go back to the problem. But you want to say, here's the problem. I'm on the same page. I understand where you're coming from. And then I have something that will help you with that. You want to come in with that after the fact.
there's a lot of different ways you could do it, but those bullet points just need to come after the title and before the solution.
Yeah.
It'd just be more effective and easy to read. Because I imagine most people would come to the site and they'd read that title, they'd read the subheading that's beneath it, and they're like, oh, okay, I want to help my family. They're just jumping the solution. They don't really want to read the 7 bullet points that are to the right.
Well, that's the thing and that's why 7 is going to hurt you, because if you have 7, they'll probably read none of these because there's so many. But if you had 3, they'll probably read all of them,
Yeah.
Yeah, one way to do it, let's say for example you use 4 of these. You could do bullet point, and then bullet point. So it's like a kind of a grid of bullet point and then one across, and it's like a two columns, 2 rows, each having a bullet point question. And then below that, you would say it's centered text. It doesn't have to be this way. Get the tools and resources, and then a centered button, schedule a call. That would be a way to do it. And then you would center the heading up top too.
So you'd read all the content completely in order.
Right. But
Your eyes going to be darting around like it's a poster, which is what this kind of looks like.
Or Chase, you had another idea where maybe you put like 3 bullet points. You put it so it's even with the heading.
Yeah.
And then you put that it doesn't have to be this way, centered below those two things that are side by side.
Right.
So a lot of ways you can do it. By the way, as we're explaining this, and as no one can see my mouse and all that stuff, it leads me to another thing. Another opportunity to leave a comment if you'd be so kind. When we're talking about the visual stuff, do people, like Chase and I have talked about it for an hour beforehand, so we get what we're saying. But I'm just curious if people watching this first go, when we explain visual things on here, is it making sense, or do we have to figure out some other way to present this information? So
I think we need to get the mouse working or something. We need some pointer so that you know what we're talking about.
or like a sketch, maybe a thing that allows me to sketch on the screen would be good.
Yeah, we need that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look into that.
We're low tech here. We're just
I
sharing
know.
screens on Discord.
I know. All right, so I'll do that screen markup. I'm making a note. I'm making screen markup. All right, that's good. All right. Next, unlocking your family's potential at every life stage. So this is kind of an interesting section, although I think it's justified and I think proves a point that I'd like to say. This section does not really fit into StoryBrand necessarily, but there's little things that I think are justified. Not everything has to align with it. I think you'd be better off saying everything that all the sections that are laid out in the blog post I've written or in Building a StoryBrand by Donald Miller. Be sure to include those things, but then there's opportunities to add little extra things if you think it adds clarity. So in the blog post, I say you have all these sections, but then you have a section for the other stuff, is what I call it. So that could be things like featured products, services, blog posts, things like that. There's little things that you just need to communicate that are better said on the homepage rather than buried somewhere else where people aren't going to see it. So I would kind of count this as part additional value that she's offering, but also more, maybe even more so, it's like services in a way. She offers coaching services for couples and for families with kids and empty nesters. So that's kind of how I would describe this section. And generally it's fine. I think Chase and I had a little bit of confusion on this section because of the use of the word stage. It makes it feel like first couples. That's what we do that first. And then we do families with kids in the home. And then so I feel like this stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 doesn't, it's a little confusing because someone's going to read that as this is a steps in a process that I have to go through, but clearly it isn't. She's saying stages of life. I don't think people need to be told that couples is stage 1 and families with kids is stage 2. You know, people know the progression. You know, you don't have kids without meeting the person and then become a couple. And then, you know, everybody knows the progression, and it doesn't really matter if it's stage 1 or stage 2. So just say unlocking your family's potential at every stage of life: couples, families with kids, empty nesters.
Otherwise, it sounds like you're describing, like, you know, a civilization that's alien to humanity or
Right.
something like that. That
Yeah.
doesn't understand, like, first you get into a couple and then you live in a house together and then you retire. Is
Yeah.
that how that works? Like you can use common sense when you write stuff like this. You don't have to break things out, and even if it looks more professional, it's just better to be more clear.
Yep, for sure.
Oh.
Design wise, do you like 1 pixel borders?
No, I really don't.
I don't.
Joe
like
doesn't like them either. They're really hard to see, and of course they're using a color like gray, like a really sort of muted gray, so you can't really even see it anyway. So it's already really thin, and the color is also really difficult to see. So it just doesn't really add anything. So the easiest fix here would just be to remove the border around each of those boxes, or at least just make the color darker and make the line thicker so
Yeah.
that it actually stands out. But the easiest fix, again, just be remove it. Like, it just doesn't really need to be there.
Yeah, you can definitely remove it. The other thing is that this is the only spot where she has. So basically, we're talking about this gray line that goes around this box. When you're not hovering it, there's a gray line that goes around these boxes. This is the only place where she has these boxes, or these cards, is what we would normally call them, without a drop shadow on them. So if you're using a drop shadow everywhere else on your site, no reason you can't use it here. So that'd be another great way to make these feel contained, if that's something you want to do. But like Chase said, you don't even need to do that. These would look okay by themselves. Then the other thing I'd like to say is hover effects. People like to put on hover effects. I think it's similar to the reason that people like to use sliders. It's like high tech or something, I think, in people's minds, that this is like, what a fancy site. We got all the bells and whistles on this site. We got hover effects. You can't click it, and hover, when there's a hover effect, it usually means you can click it, and this is something you can't click. So it's just a little bit confusing from a usability standpoint. So just you don't have to have it hover. You don't have to have a blue background on it when you hover. So.
And when you add a hover effect, it makes people think that you can click on stuff and
Right.
like it'll take you to a new page. But people are going to see that it hovers and they're going to click on it thinking like, oh, maybe she has like information on couples or empty nesters, and it just doesn't do anything.
Yep.
So
Um,
that's sort of the downside of sort of adding animation and all these, effects to your site is they don't make it as interactive.
the other thing I would like to point out, just as small criticism on the copy, like we said, the copy, we largely agree with the way that they're doing it, and it's structured well. But I have noticed that just when it comes down to like the nitty gritty details of it, sometimes there's these extra words that don't need to be there, that just add fluff, that don't add information, and just make things a little bit more confusing. So like this, families with kids in the home. I don't know if you need to say in the home, just say families with kids. That describes it fine. Everything else here I would be okay with. I mean, here's another example of it. Do you wish you're closer to your family members than you actually are? I don't think members is needed, and I don't think actually is needed. Those don't add information and just make that sentence longer. And also, does your family sometimes feel? Don't necessarily need to say sometimes feel. Just say feel. Don't need to say more meaningful ways. You can just say meaningful ways. Things like that. I mean, there's just plenty of examples on this where they're lengthening sentences, which just makes more work for people when it's not adding any information. So that's a small critique, something to look out for. Okay. Another section that is not typical StoryBrand, although as the official StoryBrand judge, I will allow it.
I think one thing we forgot to mention at the very beginning is this is a one-page website.
Right.
So the format of this site is going to be different than a lot of other sites because they try to fit all the content that would otherwise be on separate pages all on one page of the site. And I think Joe and I were talking about it earlier that I think that you can do it right and you can do it wrong. One-page sites aren't necessarily worse. They're not necessarily better. It just goes about like how, you go about organizing it just as you would any other homepage. It could be that you put too much content and you're just endlessly scrolling down the page. It could be that you put too little when you should have more content. It's just it just really depends on the circumstance.
Yeah. In the way that this website's done, it doesn't bother me. Only because she really has one set thing that she's doing, so it all can be described on one page without getting confusing. If she started talking about multiple things on one page, then you start to go, wait, is this the same thing or is it something different? But she's basically offering one service, which is family coaching. Essentially that's what she's offering. And then, so if you want to have an about section, most times that would be an about page. But if you feel like I'd rather just this be all on one page, that's fine. Just put your kind of little bio, which we'll talk a little bit about, in the homepage. That's fine. Yeah, if you start talking about more things, probably better to break up this information so it doesn't get confusing. So I wrote another blog post, which we'll put in the description. So I've written one about homepage, what you need to put on your homepage. Written one about contact page, what you need to put on your contact page, and now what to put on your about page. So I wouldn't change a thing that she's done writing wise here. So basically what you want to communicate on your about page, or in this case, your about section, is you're trustworthy, you're real, and you're committed to the problem. So the way that you can express this is by saying why you got into what you're doing. So if you can kind of take your personal experience or your personal problems that have contributed to your interest in this topic, that makes you seem real. It also explains why you're committed to the issue and why you care about it. People want to know that this is somebody that actually is interested in working with me on this stuff and actually likes what they're doing. And if you can see why they like what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, then as a visitor, you get to see that. So it's not something where I'm going to fork up $1,000 for this person and then that she's just going to give half-hearted advice without having any experience herself, and then that'll be it. So what I'll read what she's written because it's short and it is written very well. I'm Kristen Parker. Having grown up in a wonderfully dysfunctional home, shaped my desire to help families unlock their untapped potential. As a mom of 3 kids, I understand what it is like to feel like you are merely surviving the chaos. You know that there is something more meaningful for your family, but you don't know where to start. So she's putting herself in your shoes and saying, I understand where you're coming from, which makes you go like, I can trust this person. Again, that's the other thing about commitment, real trust. I can trust this person because she's been in my situation and she knows how to get out of it, which is why she's doing this business. So, and then here's where she presents her solution to the problem that she had and the visitor has. And first she puts in a little bit of credibility, which is also an important part of the About page, is reestablishing your credibility. So as a former Fortune 500 consultant, I value finding the quick wins that add up to a huge breakthrough. Since 2017, I've consulted families of all life stages, bringing practical tools that can be implemented and lived out immediately. Perfect. I wouldn't change a thing about that. Yeah, so it's focus on your why, not your how. Let's imagine that she said how she got started. It would be something like, well, first I worked at McDonald's and I didn't like that job, and I figured, it would be all focused on her. It would be and then I decided I need to go to school. So I went to school and I got a 4-year degree in business. Now you're probably wondering, what does business have to do with family coaching? It would be like that, and people would just tune you out and they would be done. They would read one paragraph maybe, or like half a paragraph, and then they wouldn't read the rest. But when you get right into why you started, it's dealing with the problem that your visitor is experiencing. And that's what they're interested in. That's the only reason someone's coming to a website. They have a problem and they need somebody that knows the answer, someone they can trust that knows the answer. And these 2 paragraphs outline that perfectly. Then the other thing is, so she's presenting herself as a solution, and then you put that call to action right there. So here it is. Get personalized and practical coaching to make the most of your years ahead. Schedule a call. Perfect. Anything you would change about the copy there, Chase?
No, I think the copy is really good. She obviously empathizes with having suffered, through the same tribulations of the service that she's providing.
Yep.
She's a Fortune 500 consultant, so that seems pretty cool.
Yep. No, it's perfect.
She's adding a little bit of credibility there. And she's doing a call to action. So it's like, I know what it's like to suffer the way you have. I can help you. Contact me. It's it's organized in a very clear way.
Yep. Now we're seeing some familiar spacing problems where there's this huge blank space now under the image. Probably could be arranged in a little bit of a tidier way, maybe.
Yeah, so I really like the gradient that's behind, and it's kind of smart, the colors that they picked, because the blue is kind of fun, and sort of this gray color at the bottom isn't white, which makes it so that the white font that you see in the body paragraph sort of stands out a little bit more. Because I think it was white, maybe it would, if the bottom gradient was white, you wouldn't see the text as well.
Yeah, this bottom paragraph would probably start to fade away.
So it's kind of a unique design section, and I kind of like that. The only problem, like Joe mentioned, is the spacing, where her photo is a little bit awkward. I guess to start with the spacing, her photo is a little bit awkward, like it's cutting off like the very top of her head, which maybe that's how the photo was taken, or maybe this photo was placed into like a template on the website where it like cropped her and they had to like position her like in that box. But it's a little bit awkward because there's a bunch of space on the sides of her, but there's almost no space above and below her. So Joe was mentioning earlier in this call we had discussing the site that you move her over a little bit and you make the aspect ratio of the box that she's sitting in more rectangular. You don't make it quite as square. So you make it take up about a third of the screen to the left, and the rest of the content can have, take up more space so that you have 2 sections that are a lot more equal, because the text section is a lot longer than this photo section that to the left. So
Yeah.
it's a problem of balancing. There's more content on the right than there is content on the left.
So if you
So
extend
that
if you crop that to be a tall rectangle, and then you let the so that's a third of the screen, and then the second third is the text. That makes the text shorter because it's longer, so it's taking up less vertical space. The photo now can take up more vertical space because it's skinnier, and then you end up with two equal height sections, which would be very balanced and look nicer.
and even if the text did extend a little bit farther, at least you could like center the photo,
Right.
from the text on the right, so it'd still look really nice.
Yep.
But this is the text is so long you have to scroll,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't good because then the photo gets cut off and it doesn't really look like a cohesive section.
Also, the breaks in this heading are a little bit awkward. And
Yeah.
if this section was this column here was wider 2/3, and then the photo was 1/3, then you'd have more space to fit that heading, and it would probably only take up 2 lines rather than this awkward 3 line break. But anyway, she's done everything. She's done everything right. But again, WordPress makes things difficult and gets in your way, um, including a photo. It's a very nice photo of her, a very professional photo. The font, the copy that she's written here about herself is relevant and interesting. Perfectly, not long. It's great. Um, she's saying she's a family coach consultant. She's saying everything you need to say is this is perfect. This is exactly how it should be done. Okay. The proof section. So there's a lot of ways to basically say. So essentially, the proof section is you've said what you do. You've claimed to have a solution. You show me that you understand the problem, but does your solution does it actually work? Because anybody can just say my solution works, but if you have other people's word on it, other people can back you up. That underlines and establishes your credibility. So great way to do that is testimonials. That's probably the most common way to do it. Just talk to your previous clients, get a review from them and feature it on your website. Another way to do it would be, I've worked with these companies. She doesn't work with business. She's not business to business. She doesn't work with other companies, so she probably wouldn't do that. But you could put logos of companies you've worked with. You could say, oh, we've been featured in this publication. The New York Times wrote about us, or whatever. List things like that, or somebody talked about us in their video, YouTube. This very popular YouTube video where they say, here are the 10 best family coaches in, wherever she's located, Tennessee, or I don't know. Anything like that establishes your credibility belongs in the proof section. Stats is another good one. Like, we've helped 300 families find, deeper connections or something like that. So she's done fine here. I think the only issue, Chase, is design on this one.
Yeah, it's a little wacky, it's a little all over the place, which again is the downside of WordPress. It just forces all these solutions all in one place with all these third-party plugins and changes and adaptions in code with WordPress updates, and it just ends up just being a mess. So
Yeah.
the previous section that we saw before is a different color, than the gradient. In the gradient, it's like a darker blue, which I think is fine, but maybe you can put that, maybe instead of having two sections in a row that both have gradients, maybe you can have, a solid color background and then have a gradient in the next section, just to make things not so consistent. Sometimes inconsistencies look better than consistencies, which is kind of hard about design. But then
Yeah.
also, when you look at the different cards that they have, for all of for each of these three reviews, there's an inconsistency in how the titles of the authors of each of these texts are line up in different places, but at the same time, the paragraphs, what's funny is the paragraph in the center takes up is the shortest height, but the name goes the farthest down, which looks really awkward to
Yeah.
look at. And I don't know why I would be doing that. It doesn't really make any sense why you would do that in the template. Um, but all of there just needs to be like consistency in just how it's laid out. And then the schedule a call button has a border around it, which I don't think it really has a border on any other section. It has like a blue.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of them.
No
None of them
border.
other than none of them other than that section seem to have like a blue border that goes around it, which is kind of awkward. And it's placed really closely, to that second testimonial, so it should be kind of moved down. Another issue that Joe mentioned earlier is that you're going to find spacing just, within each section and the different, assets in that section. It's going to be it's all over the place on the site just because that's just the nature of WordPress.
Yep. Yeah. We'll see later. So speaking of hover effects, we talked about the hover effects on this section that were not needed. We're going to see in this in probably 2 sections or so problems with this hover effect. But one that we can see here is this arrow is just jammed in there. But again, like Chase is saying, WordPress, this is what it came with. They're like, oh, what a cool feature we can include in our templates. When we sell them to people, we'll say, oh, we get this sleek animation of an arrow every time you hover over a button, but it's just tiny and it's jammed in there. It looks crowded. So, and if they didn't have a border, see, they should probably just remove the border, even so when you hover over these, there's a border around it. But I bet that arrow would look normal if there wasn't a border when you hovered over it.
Yeah.
So that's probably a bit of custom CSS that whoever built this website added in there. And now as the client, Kristen Parker, she doesn't know CSS. She doesn't know how to code. So she's stuck with it, even if whether she likes it or not. So, yeah. But other than that, I mean, she's included the right stuff. You got testimonies, you got reviews from clients, feature them, and then anything else that bolsters your credibility, add it there. Okay, process section is what we got here. So it's a similar layout. Again, this will be something we say a lot. It's WordPress. You're given these fixed layouts that you can work with. And this is the same exact layout as above here, which on this one, this heading is only one line, so the awkward space isn't as severe here, although there's really no reason to have that space there. So again, you can move these step 1, 2, 3, 4 up, and then on this is probably the worst example of copywriting on the site, and it's still not terrible, but it's probably it appears to have really been thrown together without a whole lot of thought. So first thing I'll say, the most obvious problem with this section: 1, schedule call. 2, survey your team. This is the first time that she's mentioned team on this whole thing. And when you read that, you go, does she do counseling for like baseball teams or something? I don't know where that's coming from. And then she says, we'll use different tools so that you get to know yourself and your team. It's no explanation of what she means by team. So what Chase and I are assuming she means by team is family. Your whole thing is family coaching. Just say family. It's another example of trying to be clever rather than clear. So always, 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 if you're trying to get creative because you feel like your copy's boring, but then that creativity and that cleverness gets in the way of people understanding what you're doing, don't do it. Just be clear. Just say it straight out. Survey your family would be better than survey your team, because people would generally know what you're trying to say. That being said, I think all of these could be changed. Like, these subheads don't really add any information that you couldn't cover in a very short 1-sentence heading here for each step. So schedule a call. You could just say, click the button to schedule a call. That's all. You don't need this. Survey your team. Just say, we'll probably come up with something better than different tools, but we'll use different tools to get to know yourself and your team. Just say that.
Yeah, we don't really know what to say for the second point, because we don't even know what they're even talking about. We'll use different tools to get to know your team.
Or
we can't really rephrase that because we don't know what they're trying to say.
Since it's saying survey, maybe that means like questions. So I'm going to say like answer questions to get to know yourself and your team. That's step 2.
Yeah, that would be good.
3, build a custom plan for you and your family. That it's all this stuff can just be said straight out. these subheads almost add more confusion than further explain what they are. So just say it all in one go, and then probably just move this section up so that it's equal with this heading. Move this so it's equal with this. And then once you get rid of these subheads, it'll shrink the height of this whole section, and then it'll probably be about equal height to this left section plus the button. Here's another line drawing. Chase and I, we inspected this, and we found just the raw image here. It's actually this very large JPEG, and the jumping family is just like in the corner of it. So when it was added as the background of this section, it had to get blown up to fit, and so it's all blurry. I don't know if that comes across very well in the recording, but it's very blurry. So, Chase, do you think maybe just do this as a PNG image? Don't make it a background image, and just stick it below the schedule a call button.
Yeah, just make it a cropped PNG image that doesn't take up. It's an image that takes up the whole screen, that takes up this whole section.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that just so happens to have some pixels over here that are blue. So it's really lazy. It should really just be its own separate section and be put into a grid in code. It doesn't need to just be a big background image. It doesn't make any sense because when this site is for the responsiveness of this site, when this goes down into tablet and when this goes into mobile, you know, this image is going to be completely useless. It's going to go way off the screen. It's going to cover assets that aren't supposed to be there because it's not following like a smart grid of content overlapping on top of each other. It doesn't make any sense. So
Yeah,
it's just sort of a lazy aspect of this WordPress template.
yeah, and we were messing around with the different width screens earlier, and yeah, once this gets small, it's off the screen. If you make it big, because it's a background image, it'll grow to fit the screen, which means it gets kind of pushed further and further down into the left until it actually gets cut in half by the section. Right. Because it's a background image. So yeah, just do heading, subhead here, and then put an image element that fits perfectly in this box. Put an image element here that's just a PNG of the family, and that's it. No bunch of white space around them. Just put it right there. It fits perfectly in that space, and then when you move this 1, 2, 3, 4, move that up, and then you got a perfectly contained grid where everything is sized appropriately and has good height and relatively equal on each side. So that's and then you can see that same problem. This image is a little bit blurry also, probably because it's done in the same style. So just take this out as a PNG, put it right there. Just put it as an image right there underneath the button. Okay, so this is an odd thing. They're basically doing problem section part 2, and it almost says the exact same stuff as the first one. So my take is it's not adding any information. You've already covered this. Another thing that's worth saying, and this is something that's outlined in the book, Building a Story Brand. I'll keep saying that over and over again until everybody's sick of it. He mentions like you don't want to go too heavy on the problem because then you start to scare people and like stress them out. So if you keep saying, if you don't do this, something bad's going to happen, you know, then people kind of go, oh, geez. And they also don't like it. It's like, what, are you trying to scare me into buying your product? So just a little bit. And basically how he explains it in the book is like just a little bit of problems or consequences brings out the flavor. Like it just adds more meaning to what is being discussed. If you keep in mind that, oh wait, this could actually go bad, or like if I don't do something about this, like I'm actually going to hate that. So just to be reminded of that, then adds. It just makes it contrasts what your successful outcome that you're offering is compared to what it could be if you don't do anything. So it's just meant there to bring out a little bit of flavor, you know, and just add a little pop to what you're saying on your site. Because if you just everything you say is just like, we'll do this, we'll do that, it kind of rings hollow unless you go, oh, it's a good thing they do that because this could actually be really painful if I don't do it. So I would say just get rid of this section, personally. These questions are very similar to the bullet points that are up here in the first problem section. They're just kind of restating it. So I think you can just ditch it. But let's pretend that they were keeping it design-wise. I feel like there's a very simple thing that could be done to fix this.
Center.
Center. You got a center button. Why is this all left aligned? It looks kind of funny. So, just center it all.
Center it all.
And what about this?
A left align 38% margin to the left section.
Yeah.
This section is a nightmare.
Yeah, it's
insanity.
This is one where you don't know how this ends up, but I don't want to blame Kristen because I've been here and I've been in some of these WordPress site page builders, and they don't just say like center it. You have to add like spacers on either side, and then there's only preset values that you can select from to space it. So, my bet is that she has two spacers there, but one is set to be larger than the other, and maybe that setting is like 2 clicks away, and like you don't know where it is. You lose where that setting is, and now it's just stuck like this. So, not only center the text, but center the whole thing so it's centered on the screen. It's very, very odd how it's closer to the right side of the screen than it is to the left side of the screen.
And then notice how the two schedule a call buttons are different.
Different sizes,
They're different sizes.
And that's definitely custom CSS that somebody added. And now it's just stuck like that because if you want to fix that, you have to know how to inspect a web page, use developer tools, and then find the class that's associated with that button. And then you have to know where your custom CSS section is in your WordPress site where custom CSS can be added. Then you have to search through probably hundreds of lines of code to find the one that is making this smaller than the rest. It's ridiculous. Here's what I'd like to say again, because I feel like we don't say it enough, and we could be saying it every step along the way in every one of these websites that we review. This is just common problems in WordPress. This happens every time in WordPress. Webflow. Chase told me about Webflow a few years ago. I've been using it ever since. This doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. You have total control over all this stuff. You set the rules. One of the worst things about WordPress is it comes with a template. It comes with all the CSS that's in there. If you want to change it to look slightly different, you have to do custom CSS. There's no good way to organize it. And if you don't know CSS, you can't find anything. And you also can't change it if you did. And it's impossible to find. It's incredible how much of a nightmare it can be. And doing something simple like this. Like everybody knows how to center text in a Google Doc or in a Word document, but because it's in WordPress, it's like you have to jump through 5 or 6 steps to get just something to center sometimes. Anyway, that's why I don't have any plans to work on a WordPress site for the rest of my life, and I will be sticking with Webflow unless something better comes along. But up to this point, nothing better is available. So if you want a Webflow site, go to waytogowebsite.com. Okay. By the way, Chase, we're at 53 minutes, so if we want to hit our hour and 5.
Oh my gosh. I thought this one was going to be so much shorter.
I thought so too, but I feel like it's actually longer than
We're almost done. We should make this our shortest video.
Okay, let's do it. So this, like we were saying before with this section up here, where she talks about the different stages of life, we counted that kind of as value, but kind of as services in a way. She's basically saying we treat everybody. This maybe could, now looking at it, maybe this could be done in a shorter way, where it's just like we unlock family's potential every stage of life, and then it could just be in one sentence: couples, families, empty nesters.
Yeah.
You don't need this big section, but it's fine the way it is. Like it's not too off track, so it's fine. But then this is where she actually gets into her actual services. So Kristen's core services. By the way, I feel like this should be the heading, and then this should be the subheading, but
right,
that's okay. So here's our services: family coaching, individual coaching, family retreat. So this is an interesting thing because we can't tell if these are standalone services or if they all go together. So probably this templated section in WordPress wants you to have one color for this one for build, one color for develop, and one color for connect. And this one's yellow, basically saying like most popular, or this is the cheapest or best deal or whatever. But there's no pricing, and and these aren't even similar things. It's not like I need family coaching, but I'll get individual coaching instead, because it's just you're going to pick the one that's relevant to you. So at first you look at this and you go, these must all be separate services that I can choose from. But then we have this subhead here that says keep the momentum going on the plan you created, which we think is in reference to family coaching, so that you would first do family coaching sessions and then individual coaching for each family member, and then at the end you would go on a retreat. So we can't tell. We can't tell if this is one, if these are individual services or it's part of a process that you go through. Anything you want to add to that, Chase?
Yeah, it's really confusing. When Joe brought up earlier when we in our call to discuss the site, that he realized that it was a I just assumed they were separate services, but he's like, oh wait, it says continue the momentum. So like it's not even remotely clear if that is the case. Like it's really confusing.
Yeah.
It's just not very clearly worded. And then that yellow color doesn't really make the most amount of sense. So maybe they should all be green. Maybe you can have a color that's a little bit different, but it makes it seem like somehow develop is more important than connect and build.
Yep.
Why is it more important? Is it cheaper? Is it the most budget friendly option? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest concern, what you just said. But then on top of that, just from a design standpoint, they don't use yellow anywhere else on this entire site, and then all of a sudden here it is. So you have your already two color set, green and blue. So maybe if you had to make one of these separate colors, make this blue. But
yeah, and then speaking more to design, it's probably a mistake, but with this template in the titles of each of these, so family coaching, individual coaching, and family retreat, because family retreat, they didn't press enter and make it 2 lines as opposed to the other ones. All that content beneath it is shifted up higher.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
yeah,
maybe press enter on that so they're all equal at least.
It's funny.
And
they would have had to have done that with this, because this feels about as many words, if not more words,
right,
or less words than this.
It's less.
Yeah.
I just realized that.
So they just need to hit enter here too.
And then all those little bullet points, Joe and I are not a fan of centered bullet points. It just does not look good. It doesn't look good how it wraps. It's not as easy to read. It's just not a list that really makes any sense. So make that text all left aligned. And then
all this.
Another thing you can do is remove the schedule a call button on each one of those sections and just use that button that's then again that we see 4 schedule a call buttons on the screen. And they're all at different heights and they're 2 different colors. It's just kind of a mess. Just use one schedule a call button. Bring that call button up a little bit more. Remove some of the the padding that's underneath
all this wasted
each of those
space,
cards. Yeah, all that wasted space, and just put that one big button right there.
Yep.
WordPress.
Yep. No, I completely agree with everything you said. One thing I'll say about the bullet points though is,
yeah,
a lot of times they don't really add any information. I think the worst offender of that is here. Family retreat. Get away together, engage your family intentionally. Save time and money.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with family retreat, and you don't mention a price. And save time. You're going to get a family retreat for me quicker than I could at somewhere else.
And you're going to save money on the family retreat? Are you going to go to somebody's garage or something and have a cookout? What does that mean? You're going to save time and money?
Yeah, you're gonna have bunk beds in somebody's somebody's house. So I would just get rid of the bullet points and maybe work them into this sentence. So this doesn't tell me anything. Maybe if you can explain this better, it's worth including. get a proactive plan. I feel like that's kind of repeating what's probably already been done in coaching, or what was claimed to have been done in coaching, where you get a blueprint, and then live authentic of a family. This seems to me to apply to a family retreat. So get away with your family and have engage authentically and create lasting connections, or something like that. Just put that all in one sentence. Do family retreat, that sentence centered. That's it. And then just do that for each of these. Just lump all these into a single sentence that explains everything, rather than this just all feels like fluff, like especially these, like it's like
They just needed to add 3 bullet points to each of these. So they just made stuff up.
Yep. So just say it in
Commit to a process to take away the pressure. I mean, you could say that about anything.
Yeah.
You could say that about getting a gym membership. I mean, it's not specific at all. Commit to a process. It's so robotic how it's written. It's not personalized to the service at all.
Yeah.
I guess focus on the relationship with yourself is better, but it's like, isn't that kind of implied?
Right, it's kind of implied. I mean, any of these, you can get rid of this, you can get rid of that, and you can just kind of choose one of these. Probably this one is the most relevant one, and just make that a sentence here and call it good. Same with this for families who want to get the most out of the next season. This is an interesting one. It's like, what is next season? Does that mean if I'm does that mean I can only have coaching if my kids are about to become teenagers? I mean, I'm even making the logical jump that by season she means like stages of life, and not that she means like fall and spring, or like school, or like
that's what I was thinking.
Or like
spring.
Or like school's about to start. But what if you're in the middle of a season? Then we can't talk about that season. We'll talk about that. So just say family coaching. Get on the same page as a family.
And what happens after the season? When the season's over, does this all just go away?
Yeah, then you have to need coaching for the next season.
It's a temporary fix, yeah.
But yeah, just say get on the same page and connect as a family.
It really sounds like what happened is that Kristen contacted this agency that designed their site, and they didn't really ask her poignant enough questions about what she actually does, and they just BS'd a bunch of, targeted assistance when you need it the most.
I like to think that people don't operate that way, but the way that this reads, you would have to think that. I mean,
right.
I hope we're wrong, but it's kind of a bunch of nothing. To be blunt about it, it's kind of a bunch of nothing. So this could all just be said way more succinctly, and also just make this clear: is this a process, and do I have to do coaching and individual coaching and then a family retreat, or do I get to pick? Because this makes me think I don't get to pick. This makes me think I have to do them in order. What do you think of this hover effect?
It's very ghostly.
It is. It's
just remove the border around
subtle.
the button, so when you hover over, it just completely disappears. That'd be kind of a neat.
It's like
it's not good. Don't do that.
It's a magic trick.
Make it turn green or something. Don't make it change the same color as the background. That doesn't make any sense.
Yep. Kristen, we love you. Kristen, don't be mad at us. We're saying this to help, but
yeah, we want to help you.
But I want to restate what we said earlier. They've done a lot of stuff right. I would say 95% of what they've done here is correct. But when you work in WordPress, you're fighting something constantly. You constantly are in a fight to make it look good. It gets messed up so easily, and without you doing a thing, it gets messed up. So we've been there. We know what it's like. You've done a great job, and unfortunately, WordPress is just coming up short.
Oh, underneath the button it says schedule a free consultation to determine which package is the right package for your family.
Put that up here, please.
So I guess they are individual services, but then there it says continue the momentum. What does that mean?
Yeah, this like I don't know if I said it. I said that this was the worst example, I think, of copywriting on the site. This is
It's
actually
that. It's
this is the worst.
this is the worst. There's
This
no way.
and everything else is fine. You know, like I
Yeah.
everything else we have to say is more nitpicky than anything, but this is just confusing. Um, this should be said. This should be way bigger.
Yeah.
This should be up here.
Yeah, it should be up there.
You'd be better off having this be where this is and then getting rid of this. Is if you just say this actually adds clarity what's going on. Determine which package is right for you. It also gives another valuable thing. So this is in a way like she doesn't have a contact page. Schedule a call is the only way to contact with her. And one of the important things you need to do when you have somebody, when you're trying to instruct people to contact you, is say, here's how you do it, and here's what's going to happen when you do. So when you click schedule call, at this point, we don't know what happens when you click schedule call. This tells us what happens when you click schedule a call and you have a call with her. She helps you determine which package is right for you. That needs to be said. That has to be said bigger so people can actually see that. And then don't say keep the momentum going. If these are individual things, don't say keep the momentum going. Okay. Unlock. Finish. So it's kind of this is sort of a repeat thing. This is more value stuff. So like here she has 3 additional values that she offers, or like basically how family coaching adds value to your life. Here are some additional ways. Learn how to engage as a team, define your unique family culture and identity, develop family rhythms that make sense for your family. These, I think, are way more specific and way better and way more valuable than these 3 up here. Uncover blind spots, build a plan.
Replace them.
Use these instead. And then you can get rid of this section. Add these testimonials and maybe come up with a third one if you have a third one, and then make these 6 testimonials. It's good. Just get rid of this section. These are some of the best, most valuable things she has on the entire website. It's at the very bottom.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah. I was going to say one other thing. Oh, yeah. I want to talk about, so we're talking about the flexibility of the story brand framework. Again, that's the framework that Way to Go website uses and is outlined as Building a Story Brand by Don Miller, the book. The way that I wrote a blog post about it, and the way that I have it outlined in the blog post is that there's steps. First this on your website, then this on your website, then this. I put that there as kind of an easy one to, because that's the way that I would recommend doing it. I don't think it's, well, that's how I would do it. It doesn't have to be done that way. So here's an example of where they've taken 2 different sections and they've kind of combined them into one section. Perfectly fine. I have no problems with them doing it that way. So this is a value section and this is a proof section all combined into one. Totally fine way to do it. Especially after a while, sometimes websites start to feel like they're all the same if they're all in that same layout and they all cover the same things exactly. So doing things a little bit differently like this, there's nothing wrong with that. So I would still say get rid of this section because it's repetitive and these are actually better values than these are and you don't need them. But nothing wrong with doing it this way, but again, just get rid of it.
I think maybe this isn't the best example because there's a lot of text in that section too. Like there's just so much text on the left and right side, why I think that having your own section for testimonials, it's kind of like it's a given that you're going to have lots of text, given from each person all in a row, all ordered in, a specific way, as opposed to this where you see a bunch of bullet points, then you see 2 big paragraphs that are to the right. It's just maybe not as effective.
Yeah.
It could be simpler.
Yeah. Yeah, breaking up information tends to make it easier to digest rather than a bunch of stuff at once. But if you want to do it, I'm not gonna protest anybody on it. So okay, Chase, you're not gonna believe it. That's our longest video yet, and this was the best website. I don't know how we did that. How do we make this one the longest video when it was probably the best written website we've had?
We're just getting more comprehensive and thoughtful about it, I think. I think we're just
those dumbbell exercises are paying off, aren't they?
tricep extensions. I can't touch my back. There's no way.
Okay, well, hey, you know what? We did it, and I almost want to send this to Kristen because
Yeah.
she does such a good. It's so good. It's so good, but there's just these little things that really hurt it,
Yeah.
and they're all easy to change. So, um,
And we apologize if we're harsh. We genuinely want to help people and
yeah.
really give them really good feedback.
And part of the reason I think you and I get fired up about some of this stuff is we've made these same mistakes, and we know how difficult it is to fall into these mistakes when you're building something in WordPress. And also, a lot of times stuff like this happens, and you go, "I'd rather not have to deal with it," because you know that you're going to end up spending 4 hours googling how do I add custom CSS to WordPress to fix these problems, and then you're going to be slamming your computer the whole time, and then you're going to have to go take a walk and maybe cry a little bit to yourself. So we get it. We get it. So, okay, hour and 11 minutes, Chase.
Jeez.
We need to add this. We need to get the stakes up, and we're to the point where it's like it's an hour flat, and if we can't make it, we have to hurry and just get everything under the wire.
Tell people to listen to the video at 1.5 speed, 1.25 speed.
Honestly, when I watch these back to review and kind of try and improve, I watch it back at 1.5 or 1.75 speed. I talk very slow. So if you want to watch at a faster speed, I would actually recommend it. It actually feels like we sound better when we're faster at an organic speed. So, okay, I think we should go.
I think we should too.
But leave a comment if you have something you want us to review. Also, leave a comment if our visual explanations are just not up to snuff and not getting the job done. And hello to our third subscriber. And goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.